Welcome to Differentiated Instruction for today's classroom, Section 9, Individualized Learning Centers. In a previous section, we discussed differentiation for students with special learning needs, ELLs, ADHD, and LD. In our next activity, you will experience centers that address other students who may have special learning needs because their readiness levels are more advanced than the majority of the class. Please locate page 197, Centers for Individualized DI. Notice the quote on the bottom of this page. If I consistently give any of the students work that is too difficult, they succumb to frustration born of hopelessness. If I consistently give any of them work that is too easy, they march in place. I have to work steadily to gain a sense of the evolving readiness of each student and to provide escalators of learning to ensure their growth. Students who operate at a lower level of readiness tend to get a lot of support and attention. However, students who operate at the higher levels of readiness are allowed to just coast. So in our next activity, you are going to examine DI strategies you can use to meet the needs of students who operate at the higher levels of readiness so they can also experience appropriately challenging work. Please remove the Strategies ladder from your course folder. Highlight or shade with colored pencils Learning Contracts S19 and Curriculum Compacting S20. Notice that these strategies have a high degree of choice because interests are considered and parts of the curriculum these students have already mastered can be skipped. These strategies also have a high degree of self-directedness because these students are usually working independently to complete the tasks on their learning contract or compacted curriculum. In a minute, you'll be given a shape. You will form groups with others who have the same shape, circle, square, or diamond. We want to avoid having groups with no more than 6 participants. Begin at the center that corresponds to your shape and then rotate through each of the other 2 centers. Circle group. You will start at Center 1, Gifted Learners, pages 198 to 200. Diamond group. You will start at Center 2, Learning Contracts, pages 201 to 208. Square group. You will start at Center 3, Curriculum Compacting, pages 209 to 210. You should spend no more than 15 minutes at each center. Please go to Canvas, Modules, Section 9, Center 1, Gifted Learners Discussion Area. Please locate page 198, Center 1, Gifted Learners, and read the introductory paragraphs. Independently read the Common Myths discussion statements on page 199. Using the editable Google Doc assigned to your group, reflect on each statement and what you think the truth is regarding each myth. Once your group members have contributed a comment about all statements on page 199, check your thinking by reviewing the Truths About Gifted Learners on Appendix page 18. Then reflect on the deeper thinking questions. Optionally, comment on another group's documents in a meaningful way. Please go to Canvas, Modules, Section 9, Center 2, Learning Contracts Discussion Area. Please locate page 201, Center 2, Learning Contracts. Read the introductory paragraphs and locate Learning Contracts S19 on DI Strategy Toolbox, pages 53 through 56. Divide the information on these pages among the members of your group. Using your assigned Google Doc, do a jigsaw read and share. Read and highlight key points for the portion assigned to you and be prepared to share what you read with your group. Reflect on the information, making correlations to your classroom and teacher practice. Divide the learning contract scenarios among the members of your group. read your learning contract scenario, and share key points with your group. Work as a group and discuss thoughts and insights about the learning contract strategy. How can this strategy be used for both advanced students as well as the entire class? How could you use learning contracts, similar to the examples, with your students? Please go to Canvas, Modules, Section 9, Center 3, Curriculum Compacting Discussion Area. Locate page 209, Center 3, Curriculum Compacting, and complete the directions given. Complete the Curriculum Compacting Pre-Assessment on page 209 by indicating which of the questions given are generally true or generally false. Before doing the supporting reasons discussion on page 210, read Curriculum Compacting S20 in the DI Strategy Toolbox, pages 57 through 60. Using your assigned Google Doc, work as a group and share your reasons that support the answer to each pre-assessment question. Turn to Appendix pages 19 and 20, Curriculum Compacting, Supporting Reasons Discussion, and check your thinking as to the reasons that support each answer. Then, brainstorm specific units or specific students in your classroom for which curriculum compacting would be appropriate. What myths and truths did you find most interesting and revealing? Do gifted learners vary in social, physical, emotional, and intellectual development? Are some gifted learners very sequential and others are very global? Can gifted learners struggle with everyday concrete tasks? Why might gifted students be wary of working collaboratively with students of other readiness levels? Could they not want to be put in the role of the teacher? Could they know how to do it, but they do not necessarily know how to teach it? Could they resent having to do the lion's share of the work and don't appreciate students who don't work as hard as they do? Are some perfectionists who do not like having to work at the slower pace of the group and prefer to just do it their way? Why is it difficult for some gifted learners to take a risk and try new things? Are they accustomed to success and trying new things may expose deficits or areas in which they are not as gifted? Do they have a fear of failure and looking less than they are perceived to be? What do you intend to do to meet the needs of the gifted learners in your classroom? Do you think the agenda strategy would be effective with gifted students because you could give them agenda items that would challenge them? Do you want to create a choice board at a higher level of readiness that is going to challenge your gifted learners and keep them from becoming bored? Do you think having centers that gifted learners could go to that provide more discovery learning would be effective? How can this strategy be used for both advanced students as well as the entire class? Could having a learning contract be a good way to make students more self-directed and accountable for their work? In the real world, do businesses sign contracts to complete work projects? Could learning contracts model that type of commitment and develop responsibility? Do you like the choice and self-directedness this strategy provides for all learners? What ideas do you have for introducing learning contracts to the students in your classroom? Do you think it would be effective to begin with a group learning contract and then use contracts on an individualized basis as necessary? Do you think having a contract would emphasize student ownership and responsibility for their work? Do you think it would be good to involve parents in a learning contract agreed to by the student? What insights emerged from discussing the reasons for the pre-assessment statements? Does curriculum compacting make sense to you because you know your more advanced students get bored doing assignments that they already know how to do? Do you think this is a good strategy to maximize and develop student strengths? Can it eliminate any limits on their learning? Do you like the way the curriculum compacting supports what the rest of the class is doing and the student comes in and out to provide additional information. What specific units or specific students would benefit from curriculum compacting? Do you think curriculum compacting would be beneficial when you have a student who is an outlier from the majority of the other students? Can you see where curriculum compacting would be beneficial for students who have medical issues and miss a lot of class? When you have a unit that can be expanded in several interesting directions, could having a student do discovery learning that can be brought back and shared with the rest of the class? Please remember, the advanced learners in our classroom are just as deserving of attention and appropriately challenging work as the others. These learners present a unique set of challenges for the DI teacher. There are times in a DI classroom when neither homogeneous, heterogeneous, or whole class groupings are appropriate. These individualized learning strategies give high ability students, as well as those already proficient in an area of study, a chance to work on meaningful extension activities. Learning contracts and curriculum compacting are individualized strategies that provide a lot of instructional flexibility for the DI teacher. This concludes Section 9, Individualized Learning Centers. We will continue to Module Section 9, Fair versus Equal.